the time has now come for us all to do more. From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home. Because the critical thing we must do to stop the disease spreading between households. That is why people will only be allowed to leave their home for the following very limited purposes. Shopping for basic necessities as infrequently as possible. One form of exercise a day, for example, a run, walk or cycle, alone or with members of your household. Any medical need to provide care or to help a vulnerable person, and travelling to and from work, but only where this is absolutely necessary and cannot be done from home.
In March of 2020, the United Kingdom had gone into its first nationwide lockdown due to a global coronavirus outbreak, resulting in months of uncertainty and despair for citizens all across the world. On the 7th of December 2020, students Regan Hampshire and Bedgood Burn of Sheffield Hallam University sat down together to discuss their own experiences throughout the lockdown period.
So, talking about lockdown life, what did you get up to?
To be honest, I watched a lot of Netflix,
Yeah.
a lot of YouTube and just all of that kind of
I think
stuff.
I think everyone did.
Is there any sort of specific stuff you watched on Netflix, or?
Have you seen that new thing? Have you seen that new thing on Netflix where what thing have you got? You know, when you load up and you've got all the different accounts.
Yeah.
You just got one account.
I've got a family. So
Yeah, I've got the family one 4.
5.
You got it with 5?
Yeah, it doesn't really make a difference.
I've got now when you go on,
Yeah.
I'll show you later maybe. I don't know if it's just on TV or not, but if you go on now, and underneath the account it says play something random.
Oh, yeah.
Very useful.
I don't like that because I used it once and it gave me something I didn't like.
What?
I can't remember what it was, but it was a film that I watched 10 minutes of, and
That's the thing though. I'm normally like that with most films that I'll just put on manually myself. I'll be picking something just scrolling through a genre or scrolling through an actor's films that I was requesting, and I'll just end up watching something that I've already seen.
Moving on to social life, how important have social media apps, such as Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, been during lockdown, the pandemic in general?
Well, I think I've probably used it an unhealthy amount, to be honest. Considered to normal, I've just been given the opportunity to be using it all the time, so I've kind of took advantage of that, maybe to a point where it wasn't too productive. But with considering things like Zoom and stuff for keeping contact with family and friends, I think that's just been really helpful. It's just the way the app's designed, it's just so easy to use.
But like you said, with us being in a lockdown and nothing to do, using Snapchat and Instagram a lot. I noticed I get my screen time notifications once a week on a Monday.
I haven't checked them in a while. It's probably good that I have.
Yeah, and even now, because obviously we're still not now, obviously we've been in a partial lockdown and now we're in tier 3. I still use a lot, and the screen time has been sky high, through the roof.
Talking about Zoom, definitely with towards the end of school with A levels, but mostly with this how it's affected the start to uni.
Yeah.
Just the importance of Zoom with starting uni. How's that? How have you found that?
Well, obviously it was difficult the first ever time on it.
Yeah.
You sat in a room
With a bunch with 80, how many people were there? 80?
There was
80 complete strangers.
And you got stuck in a one-on-one sort of
breakout room,
with someone random. You didn't know who they were, and it was awkward at first, but you got used to it, and as the weeks have gone on, it's been normal.
Well, I think we were in one of the first breakout rooms together, weren't you? Like you say, you went the first one with just one random person.
When we started with our actual course, we got put in the same
Or
one.
was it just 2 or
There was 2 or 3 of
Yeah.
us. Moving on to the mental health side of things.
Yeah. Well, I was never really too concerned with mental health before lockdown started, but I think as it's continued to go on, I think it's been just the continuous repetition of days, not being able to do anything, the lack of productivity with basically everything, just finding yourself in cycles of not exercising, maybe not sleeping right, being too lazy. I think the cycle's got to pretty much everyone. So it's fair to say everyone's had a small, maybe not too much, but at least some kind of experience with lockdown affecting the mental health.
I mean,
when considering our experiences, it's hard to understand how many other people's lives was affected, especially many people who've been laid off from work, lost their job, and the furlough scheme not providing them with enough funds and not enough money to support their families, pay rent, put food on the table. Many people went homeless. It was just a complete mess. Yeah, just life completely flipped around. It was very sad. I can't imagine how those people have managed to deal with it. Very serious precautions must have been taken.
I think for a lot of people, it was hard not seeing family as well.
Oh yeah.
I personally am quite close with my granddad,
Yeah.
and with it being, vulnerable and you're not allowed to see them at all,
Yeah.
it was very difficult to communicate with him because he's not tech savvy.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to work his phone at all, really.
And mainly just not knowing how they're doing, not being able to talk to them.
Especially when they're not,
Yeah. When they're not able to access social medias and
he struggles to, WhatsApp me.
Yeah.
So, but that was quite difficult in that terms. But obviously, we're going into the tiers. We went and sat outside.
we managed to sit outside. It was just a nice bit of hope that.
And I feel for them it was worse, not knowing when they're going to be let out.
Yeah, I mean that's been the case for everyone. It's just been kind of like.
But for us, I think it's different because we're younger. We're not as vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of been very saddening to be like, oh, you're only 18 months. This is meant to be one of the greatest years of your life. You're meant to be out enjoying yourself. You're finally able to do a lot of things that you're not able to do before. Me and you from personal experiences, knowing how driving lessons and driving tests have been, numerous pushback dates, numerous tests being cancelled. It was just the cherry on top to a very awful situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk as a whole. I've got a fact here. The studies found that suicidal thoughts increased from 8 to 10%, and they were highest among young adults like you and myself. So that's 18 to 29 years old, rising from 12.5% to 14%.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, people committing suicide.
Yeah, most among young adults and people moving into
I've heard about
students.
the one in Manchester.
Yeah.
Where a student committed suicide while in accommodation because of the fact that they were just isolated on their own.
It's almost inhuman, like the way most of the university students have been treated, have been kind of just like pushed to the side and forgotten about. And with the movement back into lockdown, it kind of was a very awkward timing with people being introduced to new schools, new universities, and then immediately being hit with a second lockdown. It was kind of like very, very bad timing. Finally, just in general, how are your thoughts as a whole with just how this pandemic will play out?
I don't think we'll return to normal
Anytime
life.
soon, yeah.
But there's rumours that it's going to be in spring. But
Yeah.
I personally think it could go on not as bad for the entirety of next year.
Just for a nice length. It's going to be a while. We were kind of rushed into extreme precautions with the lockdown. I think it's going to be a while until we are completely making that transition into normal life. Definitely.
In terms of how it ends, I don't really see
What you
it.
say? I don't
see it
think-
ending
yeah.
completely.
I don't think anyone can really predict how it's going to be. I don't think anyone could have predicted when we move into this lockdown in March that we'd still be here in December, basically in the same situation.
I feel that it's going to become the new norm.
Definitely.
Whereas, it's similar to the flu, but it's just a lot more
Yeah.
rapid in spread, but I think eventually, the masks will go.
Yeah, hopefully.
But I think
Until then.
and obviously the social distancing will go
Yeah.
eventually. But I think the coronavirus is here to stay.